Hi everyone, I'm Vanessa Bartlett and welcome to this interview today. Now I have a very good friend on here, Annie Kallis, and she is actually a relationship architect, and I really love that name because we work on so many parts of our life and our health and our well-being, but do we actually work on the relationship with ourselves and others? And that's where you come into this, Annie.
Yep. Yes, I do.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself? So today's focus is obviously going to be about developing a good, healthy relationship with ourselves so that we do prioritize our own needs and health in busy life, and also helping, just little tips on fixing relationships that we may need help with in our lives as well. So I know you've got some great tips on that, but tell us how you got into this space.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I would just like to say thank you for inviting me. This is really exciting. And I love working with people who are there to change the quality of lives of others and just constantly contribute and give value. So thank you so much, first and foremost.
You're welcome. It's great to have you. Thank you.
So how did I get here? Well, a couple of years ago, well, quite a few years ago, I was in a marriage that there was a lot of friction. And it wasn't due to the fact that we loved each other. There was just something that was happening. So I decided, I was whining to my friends for years and years and years and years. And then this one friend asked me to go to a particular workshop with her. And I thought, okay, I'll go because I want to become a better wife. I was overweight, overworked, just tired, a mom. I was just, I just thought, is this it? So then when she told me that, and I went, yeah, okay, I heard about this place before. And but I trusted her, so I went, and life just changed. It was like a massive pivotal point. So I looked at a couple of different distinctions in life, and I heard different ways of looking at life. So with that, Pandora's box opened up, and I became like SpongeBob. A sponge. I was just sucking up information. I loved it. I really loved it because I liked how the different ways of thinking and the tools and all of that they were giving me, it worked. And then I started, I got a life coach, same lady. I did some life coaching with her, and all of a sudden I just saw another world. And then I think it's where we met.
Yes.
We went to an event called National Achievers Congress. From there, we met T. Harv Eker. We did Millionaire Mind, Quantum Leap, and then the rest is history. So for the last 9 years, I've been on a journey of self-growth. So I started with wanting to understand why I'm so angry and why have I become the verbal abuser in the relationship. So I was just yelling at the people that I love the most, and I wanted to know, why do I do that? Now on this journey, I started to discover many things, and I all of a sudden discovered this really nice chick, and I kind of started liking her, and then I started loving her, and that was me. And as I was releasing all the pain and from my upbringing, all the anger, all the guilt, all of that, I started to look at, I want to teach people this stuff because the way it felt inside, the freedoms that I got inside, and the contentment and fulfillment and joy and happiness, I want everybody to feel the same. And if I can be a little part in that transformation in their life, wow, then I live my purpose.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I love that because we often hear of, experts and people going through their own kind of ups and downs to get to that place of wanting to help people passionately about a particular topic. And thank you for being so open about that. It's really fascinating because I think a lot of us may kind of know that we do. And what you said before, I want to pick up on, carry these internal anger sort of things that we carry from life, from burdens, and do we actually release it? So I want to get into that as well. That's a really important thing. I think a lot of people watching this could maybe relate, have they noticed a change within themselves, or are they carrying stuff? Are they taking things out on people around them that they love? Like you've mentioned, you know I'm guilty of that at different times, and you really have to be a strong-minded person and take that step back and be willing to look at yourself. And we spoke about that before, about personal responsibility. So we'll get into that as well. I'd love to ask you firstly though, you know, the relationship with ourselves and others is obviously a big part of our overall health, happiness and health. But I'd like to talk about the selfishness and the guilt that people often feel, women often feel, around taking time out for themselves. Why do we feel this? Why do people struggle to go, I will have a massage, I will get a life coach and spend that money on myself, I will do exercise and commit to health and well-being? Why is there so much guilt around that?
Do you know, sometimes I think that people, and I've got some notes on that here, I think sometimes this is just a word. It's actually a word that we learned somewhere and we attached it in some way to our life. So when we are doing something for ourselves that we think, and because of our upbringing, and it's really actually not even just the upbringing, it's our programming and society's programming, because nobody really sits there and, unless you're in this realm of possibilities and growth, nobody sits there and says, now take care of you first, make sure you're happy within, because then you can give, right?
Right.
So the gift comes from, I want to do something for me, but hang on, I need to be a mother, I need to be a wife, I need to be a daughter, I need to be I'm talking as a girl, so if we're going to have men listening to this too, I'm a son, and many men feel this too, you know, but they don't talk about it. Women throw the word around much easier. Oh, I'm feeling guilty. Okay, so you got to really look at, what does that word mean? So the word guilty, and I would highly recommend to people, if they don't understand the word, first thing they should do is look at what do they think it means, and then look it up in a dictionary, because we have learned words from people. Okay, we weren't born with words, so we learn words from people, you know, parents, school, cousins, aunties, whatever, wherever we've been. So we get somebody else's meaning of the word, and then we live into it, because we kind of go, oh yeah, that's about right. Whereas the word guilt is actually relates to something that you've done. So you are guilty of hurting that person, or you are guilty of killing that person. So that's like in a court of law,
Right?
that's guilt. But if you look at it, unless you really did something and you feel like, damn, I did that, I'm feeling really guilty because I've hurt that person, well, then where's that guilt coming from? Why you feel guilty? So I actually have a couple of, I did a little bit of research into guilt, because I used to feel guilty a lot. So would it be okay if I share a little bit of there's 5 causes of guilt?
Sure, yes, please. I think this is something we really need to dig into, and it's interesting. I think I've learned so much already going, well, the meaning of it is actually not the meaning of it. What we have in our heads of, oh, I'm guilty because I'm taking an hour out, you know, away from the kids and the family for myself, that's not a crime, is it? So it's more like we've attached these connotations and our own meanings on it from society. That's fascinating.
And do you know what? Women use that more than men. So is it just a word that they use to fill in some space of unknown, some unknown emotion that they're feeling?
Yeah.
And it's a possibility. And I could only talk from my experience here. It's that, well, I actually really just want to sit for an hour, and then I go, oh, but I should be doing that. When did we become this society where we constantly have to put out? Whether for family or for work, we forever have to have an outcome.
Yep.
But that's okay, you know, because we want results and all that kind of stuff. We want our life to be a particular way. But how about going internally and adding a level of outcome and result on ourselves? right? But people don't really consciously think about this because, do you know how much conscious we have in our heads?
How much?
How much we think consciously. So I'm a flip charting queen. So I'm gonna
love it.
Show something.
Yep.
So right?
Yep.
So what's this?
So that's hopefully our big brain.
Got it. You're the first person ever. High five. You're the first person. Most people say it's a circle. Yeah, it is a circle. Okay. So how much do you think we think consciously?
Well, I've heard that it's only around 10% of our actual brain depth that we use. Is that right?
Yeah. So 10% is conscious. So what's that?
So, unconscious. 90% is unconscious, isn't it?
But unconscious is when you have alcohol and you become unconscious.
Conscious, right? Well,
90% is your subconscious.
Subconscious.
So what that is, that's actually all your positive and all your negative experiences are in here, right? So what happens, as these experiences were happening, we actually attach a charge to it, a positive or a negative charge, right? So we got all these charges around. So for example, right, when something negative happened to us, we make it mean something, nobody else. We make it mean something. Then we have charge attached to it, that feeling. So then what we want to do is we want to protect ourselves, right? So what we do is we encapsulate it. So we learn how to deal with that situation, how to deal with the pain. We locked it up. We go, okay, we're good, right? But what happens, then the next event happens, which could be similar to that. And we go, oh, I know that energy. Yay, let's go. Have and then we attach it and we encapsulate it. So what's happening, and same happens with the positive ones, right? We attach this great emotion. We go, wow, we want this, but then you want it all the time. So the next time something happens, you go, oh my God, I'm not feeling the way I felt that time. So then we go, oh, and disappointment happens. So what this is our little voice. These are all of our little voices. And if anybody says, oh, what little voice? That one that just said, what little voice, right? So these are all the experiences. So what is important is that if you become, and with awareness, because if you're not aware and you're not present to yourself, you are not actually aware what's happening. So in order to remove all that charge, you need to blast that stuff. You need to blast that, and this is we call it the yuck berry, because it looks like a berry, but it's yucky, right? So what you do is by working with somebody, like you and I have been doing workshops and seminars and coaching and all of that to learn about ourselves. You only know what you know. So in order to have a different result, you need to learn something else. And this is where you go to seminars, you read books, watch YouTube videos, and get a coach. Now, reading books and watching videos, it's great because we might relate to it, right? But how do you apply it into your life? And this is when it's important to have a coach. Whether you've got a health coach, a mindset coach, a business coach, a relationship coach, but all of it is under coaching, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like you're looking at what are your needs. So when you blast those yappers, even the positive ones, right? When you understand what you did well, what were your emotions, what were your thoughts, then you will be able to repeat it itself. But people don't debrief themselves.
Yeah.
Right? So when you debrief with yourself, what happened, why, what worked, what didn't work, and what did you learn? And if you do this in writing, because successful people think on paper, it is amazing how much you start to connect to yourself.
Yeah, definitely. It is really powerful. I'm all for pen and paper, old school, it does work. And, just taking that time out again for a bit of self-reflection, sometimes we're just so busy and getting caught up with things. But if you can just stop and look at these little things happening and ask yourself why, and just do a bit of self-analysis, and then probably better off with a coach guiding you to keep you accountable and to keep you on the right track. That's always so helpful. I'd love to revisit now the causes of guilt, because we talked about that, but you mentioned there's a few main causes here. So can you briefly summarize that for us?
So there's five causes of guilt. First one is guilt for something you did. And if you did, own up. Own up and become responsible. Don't deny, lay blame, or justify. Because denying is lying, laying blame is being a victim, and justifying is just finding reasons. Become 100% responsible for your actions, for what you did, what you didn't do, what you said, and what you didn't say. And you are 100% responsible for your emotions, because you are the one creating the emotions. Nobody's creating them for you. So you got to go figure out what those emotions are. Back to the yuck berries again. Figure out what they are, work it out with somebody, right? And then also when you are in an environment, whether it's a relationship, 50-50, at work, you know, let's say there's 10 people in a team, everybody has their percentage, but you are responsible to your own percentage. So you're 10%, you're 100% responsible for your 10%. So you always need to take personal responsibility. So if you stuffed up, go apologize. You can't change this because you can't change the past, but you can say, how can I make this better for you?
Yeah.
It's as easy as that. I'm sorry. Or thank you for being patient. Like if you're running late because there was an accident on a road, it's not I'm sorry. It's thank you for waiting for me, because that was beyond your control. But if you stuffed up, just apologize.
Yeah.
It's an acknowledgement to the other person. So that's number one. Number two, guilt for something you didn't do but want to do. So that's your thoughts. You know, and I tell you, one of the biggest ones that people have, and they go bananas, is when they want somebody else to die. Because if they die, then they disappear. Right? So that's pretty intense.
That's pretty hardcore, isn't it?
It is hardcore, but it's normal. If you do something about it, then that's a problem. But just to have that fleeting thought, and then you just go, okay, all right, it's okay. But that's hardcore, right? Mm. But I've spoken to so many people who go, I feel so bad, you know, because if they weren't here, then they would be okay. I said, yeah, I know that. But okay, so you want to do something about it? No. Okay, good. Okay, so let's look at what's coming up for you.
Right.
Then the next one is guilt for something you think you did. So people sometimes go, did I do that or didn't I do that? And other people can tell you, oh, you did that, and you go, didn't I? So people start feeling guilty. Well, got to stop and go and just say, okay, hang on a minute. Let me just play back. Chill out, play back. Did I or didn't I? Number 4, guilt that you didn't do enough to help someone. So that's a really, really big one in people. It's also a big one in people that are in service, in coaching, who constantly give value, and then they're not getting the results that they want. So that's a failed help stigma, right? It's called failed help. And what it is if you can disassociate from the end result and just go, I just turned up and I'm there for that person, that's good enough, right? What the other person does with the information, that's entirely up to them. You are not in control of them. And then number 5 is guilt that you're doing better than someone else. And I think we learned this in MMI, how a lot of people look at wealthy people as assholes or not good enough. I hope that it's okay to say those words. and that, or they're just greedy bastards and this and that. Well, you've got those, but you've got a lot of people that do a lot of good because they built themselves up, and now they have the capacity and the financial capacity and maybe the time capacity to really go and contribute. And there's a lot of wealthy people in the world that we don't know about that are actually doing it. But what happens is people that are growing themselves, all of a sudden others start to look at them and say, oh, you think you're better than me? And that has happened to me many times, and it hurt, right? And then I started to feel like, Did I say something? Did I act a bit too smart and this and that? So when I did, I go, okay, stop that. But I'm not going to apologize for wanting to create a better life for myself. And neither should you, those of you watching. You know, if you, so this feeling of guilt comes from an underlying feeling of low self-worth and self-criticism, right? It has nothing to do with your achievement. It's rather than how you see and feel about yourself. And that's the issue with guilt. And with many people, it comes from childhood, when one of the parents made you feel guilty. If you didn't do this, then you were that. So if you didn't do that, you were a bad boy or bad girl. So we live like that, and then we're living into life with always doing actions. So how do you overcome that?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Because now you've hit on something so important. What guilt is this, I believe, somewhat a misconception of the meaning of it. So we can all sleep well tonight knowing that we can just take a breath and take a step back and do a bit of, self-analysis and go, well, if we're not out there committing crimes, we are not necessarily guilty. Guilt is a misconstrued word. But then it's on to then the relationship with yourself, which is exactly what you're honing into now. How can we improve that self-worth and self-esteem and get rid of those inner criticisms if that's what we have been brought up with?
So number one, don't get into productivity, right? Because you're going to go back to what you did when you were little, when you were guilted into doing something. And a lot of people guilt people into things or out of going out. Or why are you going out? I don't go out. In relationships sometimes because I want to. Yeah, well, you don't love me. Why are you going? Why are you going fishing? Well, go and do something with your friends. We need to have that individuality in life. Just because we come together as a couple, that doesn't mean we need to stop doing what we love. And that is one of the biggest things in relationships, is that people forget who they were before they got into the relationship, and then they blame the other person and become resentful. You got to connect back to you and what you love doing. As long as you do things together, you do things separate, because you're an individual. You're not defined by that person, right? So first one, don't go into productivity. Then eliminate destructive criticism. When you keep telling yourself all this bull, right, this BS, you are living into that. So you just got to go stop. And you need to start having positive statements. Like one of the ones I do is I like myself. So when I'm struggling, because I still do, just because I'm a coach, I'm still a human being, and I've got many yuckberries in 53 years. So I'm still bashing through them, right?
Sure.
But the thing that I do a lot is I stop and I go, I like myself, I like myself. And then I do it in different tonalities. And I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself. And I start to make it fun until I hit it where I really mean it. I like myself, I like myself, I like myself. And I do it 20 times to 50 times. And by the end, I forgot what the issue was. And then I'm clear, my mood is low, and then I'm able to go and do what I need to do.
Yeah, so, and that's such a good, simple little exercise. This stuff doesn't have to be so complicated, does it? I was reading up in Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. That's a book I always go back to. And that's exactly what she says, Annie. It's one of these statements. Her favorite statement is, I approve of myself. Just allowing yourself to be who you are, wherever you're at, and it's okay. Take that step back and go, I approve of myself. And you're right. Say it in a way that it's meaningful, not that it's, that you kind of making fun of the process. It has to just go where you kind of grounding yourself and being present within your own being, I suppose.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you guys one more thing quickly. Do we have time?
Yes, let's do that.
So this is a really big one that works every time I'm actually talking to people. So this word here. Can you see?
Selfishness, yeah.
Selfishness, right? So what's selfish? Because that word is thrown around a lot. Yeah. You're being selfish. I want to go for a run. You're being selfish. You should be home with the kids.
Exactly.
I want to have a bath. Who the hell has time for a bath? You're being selfish. There's all sorts of reasons that people always say you're being selfish. So that word is thrown around without actually knowing what it really means. So selfish means getting a positive result at the detriment of others. So you want to get whatever you want, but you don't care if you hurt somebody or step all over somebody, right? So that's selfishness. Now the next word is this one. Noble. Mm-hmm. So what's a noble person? So back in the days, it used to be the rich guy who had the castle, he had the land, and then he divided the land and gave it to his people. So he gave them a livelihood. Now you had the noblemen that were greedy, but that's a different thing. We're looking at somebody who's doing good, right? Now, if you add a Y there, nobly selfish. When you have noble selfishness is you are actually doing things for you without hurting somebody else. So when you decide to have that bath, you know that when you go in there for that half an hour, you're going to chill, you're going to relax, and then you're going to come out. You are not hurting anybody. How can somebody hurt somebody by having a bathtub? By having a bath?
Isn't it craziness when you say it like that? It's really, I don't know where all these silly things condition our minds. But that's amazing. I love that. Noble selfishness. Love it. Go have the bath. Go have the massage. You're not hurting anyone.
So when you say no to somebody else, you say a big yes to you. Right? So just remember this. Noble selfishness, no to somebody else, yes to me. That's very hard to do. And this is again where you got to work with a coach who's gonna and surrender to the process and let somebody guide you through steps and help you understand what is actually happening in your world. Yeah. And then you're gonna the moment you start understanding that, you go, oh, and you will become a different person, because change, a goal is to change your life, right? And the purpose of goals is to change the direction of change inside of you, right? Everything comes back to this, because, if you point like this, right, where do most of the fingers point?
We're pointing at, the world, blaming other people, or pointing it outwards, right? But essentially, we've got to look inwards for these things. That other people.
I ask people, where do most of the fingers point?
Others, outward.
There's the 3 pointing back at you.
That's, yes, good trick question. Yes.
So there's only one pointing at another person, but there's 3 pointing back at you. So it means you are responsible first and foremost. If you don't know how to do that, get a coach, get somebody to help you, because it can take, like I have sort of programs where I do 7-week programs, 6 weeks program, and the change is amazing, because they start to understand the fundamentals. And that's why I'm an architect. I actually help people design their life, set the right foundations, and then start building upon it. A house cannot be built without the solid foundations, right?
Right.
So that falls over. So it's very important that you have solid foundations as a human being.
Yeah. And that just hits the nail on the head, I think, with creating that relationship within yourself. Once you're reconnected to yourself, and believe in yourself, that self-worth, and also changing those meanings behind guilt and selfishness, it really does open up a new level of presence and health, I think, as well. A lot of my clients watching this will be looking to improve health and mental well-being, but it really goes deeper than that. Then you will spend time for the exercise or the bath or the massage and things like that, because you do value yourself and you know that there is absolutely no negative connotations around that in regards to guilt and selfishness. But yeah, you're right. It takes a bit of work to kind of get ourselves out of whatever that mental state is that's kept us where we are.
And this noble selfishness and health, they like this.
Yeah,
right?
Totally agree. Yeah.
I lost 20 kilos. I was 20 kilos overweight. And the moment of decision when I said, look, I don't want to be skinny. I want to be healthy, because I couldn't get it. I was 48 or 49 years old, and I couldn't get out of bed. And I just made this decision. So I decided to get healthy. So I was committed to completing that, right? So health is so, so, so important, because when you're healthy, you feel good about yourself. And the weight was coming off. And next thing, I'm 20 kilos lighter. I am thin. I am sexy, or I'm feeling sexy, and all of a sudden I feel good about it. But it was the mental state. It started changing the mental state. What do I need to do? And I need to eat. And I went cold turkey. I got off absolutely everything that I was told to do. So I surrendered to my coach. I wasn't sitting there arguing, oh, but I like cake. Yeah, I like cake.
Right.
And I do cake now, right? But he said, no this, no salt, no carbs, I just thought complete detox. And I tell you, it was literally melting off. So when people are there and arguing with the person who's supposed to help them, that why are you arguing with me, right? So what's the resistance? There's a resistance there. Are you afraid to be healthy? What would that give you?
Yeah.
And people are afraid of, well, and I remember when I lost all the weight, and then I had a group of friends that were still, heavier, and I used to see the way they looked at me. And I started to feel like,
self-conscious. Yeah.
And then even guilty. And then I thought, their issue, not mine. And I asked them, I asked once, a person said to me, oh, why are you eating like that? It's embarrassing when we're in the restaurant and you ordering, weird food. And I said, so what is it about me wanting to be healthy that bothers you so much? That was the last time that person said something.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you've got to look at that as well with relationships and people you spend time with, right? Valuing the same things as you and making you feel good about yourself and uplifting you. That's a whole other thing we could go into. But yeah, you're right. Not taking things personally. That's an important part of the relationship with ourselves and with others, is that's her thing. That was their thing, wasn't it? Completely not yours, but you said you almost took it in and almost let that guilt take over your well-being, but you stopped yourself in your tracks. And that's a really great point for people to just go, you know what, I can kind of change things today, change things tomorrow, and not take in what people are saying if it's bringing me down. And just stay mindful of my own thoughts, knowing, no, just because everyone else is doing this or working 24/7 and being a mum 24/7, it's okay if I take those hours out for myself. That's my decision and that's their decision.
And we cannot afford the luxury of negativity around us. It's not a luxury. We need to step outside of negative people. If they bring you down, they're not adding to your growth, you need to step away. And I know some people say, yeah, but what if they're family members? For a little while, love them from afar. Just love them from afar. And then when you have the capacity to deal with that, then you go back, and it's a bit, that could be a bit harsh, but it works, because then you have the capacity to not allow whatever's coming your way. They're probably saying things to you because they love you, right? But that's just their perception. So, they live in fear. Don't take on their fear for your life, You got to go and do your goals and create your goals and your life. Yeah,
that's great. I think I'd love to talk to you all day. This is such a big topic, and you're full of wisdom. So thank you for sharing everything. Just to reiterate a couple of key points, let me know if I've left anything out, but we've got to remove or change our perception of what the word guilt means. And it's, not actually committing crimes and things and doing bad things to others. If we're not hurting others, we're not being selfish, or we shouldn't feel guilt around taking time out for ourselves and things like that. And it is our responsibility at the end of the day to take a step and go, well, maybe I do need to get a coach, or maybe I do need some external help to just kind of retrain my mind a little bit and where my thoughts are headed. And we can always move forward by keeping more of a positive self-image and self-worth. Creating that positive relationship with yourself, it's the most important thing to well-being, really. It's such a foundational thing, isn't it?
It sure is. And just quickly about the guilt, how to deal with guilt. The first one is, like, don't go into productivity, eliminate destructive criticism. Don't allow somebody to say something destructive about you, because then your subconscious will take it on. So you actually need to say, I would appreciate if you wouldn't speak to me like that, because it's not true. Okay? Right? Then refuse to blame anyone else for anything except for responsibility. Refuse to be manipulated by guilt. So if you feel that somebody is manipulating you, actually ask them, are you trying to guilt me into doing this? Okay? So call it. You need to call it. This society, we're very afraid to call people as is the situation. This is what I feel is happening. I need to say something here. Is that okay with you? Can I share something with you? So we can ask permission, but we need to say, listen, are you trying to guilt me into this? So and since I started doing that, it's very rare that people try to guilt me into things, because as soon as I feel it, I'm going, hang on, just ask me what you want. Don't need to guilt me, this way, right? And don't pass on other people's negativity. So don't start to bitch about people behind their back. You should be able to say what you feel about a person to their face. You don't need to, and when you hear about other people, just say, I don't want to get involved in that.
Yeah.
Because you don't need that. And forgive and do it all early. My message to the world is forgiveness is freedom. People are human. They have their own idiosyncrasies. They have their own little voices. They have their own stories. When you forgive yourself and somebody else, you're free, because you don't carry that burden with you. So, and if you stuffed up, oh, well, what did you learn? And forgive yourself for it. It just was. I yelled at my husband. I did. I went back and I said, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Now, we're not together anymore, but we have a very good relationship, and that's how it should be.
Yeah, just owning it, owning your space, but then owning your responsibility is such a key thing. That's fantastic. I love this. I think this is such a beneficial interview that we've had today. So thank you so much for your time. And I'd love for anyone who watches this to post any questions to either Annie or myself.
I actually have an article on guilt. That's where I got this stuff from that I wrote.
Yep.
So if somebody wants it, all they need to do is ask, and then give me the email address, and I can send them the article and they can read it.
Sounds great. Yep, I'll put our contact details up at the end of this as well. I look forward to catching up with everyone soon on another video.